The blood moon hangs heavy tonight, bleeding a sickly, crimson glare across the jagged horizon. It is a light that reveals nothing but the shadows it deepens. Beneath that bruised sky, the Ozark wilderness waits. Absolute silence reigns until the rhythm of the night is shattered. A low, mechanical thrumming vibrates through the ground, steady and persistent, like the pulse of a dying heart. It grows, rhythmic and unavoidable. Gravel crunches under weight. The sound of tires biting into loose stone echoes against the bluff. There is no wind to mask it, no rustle of leaves to hide the approach. The forest floor holds the sound, amplifying the vibration of a vehicle carving its way into the void. The canopy above is thick, weaving together to block out the stars and swallow the red light of the moon. The truck pushes forward, deep into the trackless dark, leaving the open road behind. The air grows cold and stagnant. Every mile driven is a step further from the world they know, and deeper into a silence that feels hungry. The engine hum continues, a singular, mechanical intruder in the ancient, suffocating woods. Something is moving in the dark, and the night is listening. The year was 1980. Two 19-year-old boys pushed the 4WD truck further along the gravel path, the engine noise dying into the dense canopy. With them sat a German shepherd, its head tracking movement in the ferns. They had limited supplies, a cooler, a few blankets, and a single-shot .22 rifle. The weapon was a toy for tin cans, utterly useless against the scale of the wilderness, yet they carried it as if it were a shield. They left Devil's Den behind, crossing the boundary where the pavement ended and the trackless national forest began. No radio signals could reach them here. No lights flickered in the distance to offer comfort. They drove deeper, the truck frame groaning as it navigated the uneven, shifting gravel of the mountain road. The trees pressed in from both sides, tall and ancient, filtering the fading daylight into long, distorted shapes. They were looking for a place to stop, unaware that the trail they chose led away from civilization and towards something entirely different. They felt the thrill of independence, the engine hum masking the sound of their own isolation. They pushed forward, miles into the deep woods, confident in their solitude, while the forest closed its gates behind them. The sun bled out behind the jagged tree line, painting the sky in bruised purples. The boys needed a place to stop before the last of the light vanished. They steered the truck around a sharp, granite bluff, the tires sliding on loose shale. Below, the trail opened into a massive, flat clearing flanking a rocky, fast-moving creek. It was the perfect spot, until the headlights cut through the gloom. The clearing was not empty. At least 20 men were clustered around a collection of motorcycles and rusted trucks. The air here smelled of stale oil and charred wood. A heavy piece of plywood was propped against a thick oak tree near the water. On it, spray-painted in jagged, uneven letters, were the words, "The Village of Rape and Pillage." The truck rolled to a stop, the engine ticking as it cooled. The silence that followed was absolute, heavier than the forest canopy itself. The boys scanned the scene, the realization of their error hitting them with the force of a physical blow. They were not alone in the woods, and they were not welcome. The creek water rushed over the stones, but the sounds seemed distant, drowned out by the sudden, suffocating weight of 20 pairs of eyes locking onto their position. 20 heads turned in perfect unison. It was not a casual movement, but a coordinated, predatory shift. The driver's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white as he processed the scene. There was no hesitation, no conversation, only the raw electric surge of panic. He slammed the truck into gear. The engine roared, a violent, guttural sound that shattered the quiet of the clearing. Tires spun in the loose gravel, spraying dirt and stones into the air as the truck fishtailed, struggling for traction. The men in the clearing didn't move, yet their presence felt like an anchor pulling against the vehicle. The driver floored the accelerator, pushing the truck to its limit. They surged forward, the suspension bottoming out as they hit the uneven path. Branches whipped against the metal frame, sounding like gunfire in the dark. They didn't look back. They pushed the engine until it whined, fleeing 3 miles down the winding road, desperate to put distance between themselves and the clearing. Every shadow looked like a pursuer. Every turn in the road felt like a trap. The truck tore through the forest, a blur of motion in the suffocating black, with the destination forgotten in the singular, desperate need to survive. The road ended in a tangle of overgrowth. The driver cut the engine, plunging the world into a silence so absolute it rang in their ears. They sat in the dark cab for a long minute, listening to the radiator pop and the cooling metal tick. The driver cranked the ignition once more, creeping the truck another 40 yards into the dense brush, tucking it behind a cluster of thick pines. They jumped out, their boots crunching on dry leaves and snapping twigs. They found a fallen log in a small, sheltered dip in the earth. The friend reached into the bed of the truck and pulled out a small lantern. His fingers trembled, scraping against the metal dial. He turned it, and a flicker of yellow light sputtered to life, casting long, dancing shadows against the trunks. They sat down, the wood cold and damp beneath them. They watched the light, trying to slow their breathing. The forest pressed in from every side, a wall of black that felt alive. They held the lantern steady between them, a tiny island of warmth in the suffocating woods, waiting for their heartbeats to match the rhythm of the night. Every snap of a branch in the distance made them freeze, eyes locked on the edge of the light, waiting for something to emerge. The lantern cast a steady, amber glow that barely touched the surrounding trunks. It was a fragile sense of security. 30 minutes bled away into the stillness. Then, the sound arrived. A faint, rhythmic crunching of gravel drifted up from the main path. It was slow, too slow for a passing traveler. The boys exchanged a look, their breath hitching in their chests. The crunching stopped, then resumed, closer now. They strained their ears against the dark. A low, mechanical thrumming vibrated through the ground, but no headlights cut through the trees. A vehicle was creeping toward their position, its lights deliberately extinguished. They were being hunted. The friend reached out, his hand shaking, and grabbed the top of the lantern. He didn't wait for a second confirmation. He slammed his palm down, crushing the flame into instant, suffocating blackness. The sudden absence of light was a physical blow. They sat perfectly still, hands pressed into the dirt, listening to the vehicle roll to a halt at the base of their driveway. The forest felt narrower now, the walls of the night closing in as the engine ticked, cooling in the silence. The vehicle sat idling at the base of the knoll for a heartbeat. Then the engine cut. The silence that followed was heavy and sharp. Then came the metallic click of a door latch. Another door followed. No voices drifted up through the trees, only the soft, rhythmic thud of heavy boots hitting the forest floor. They were moving with purpose, testing the ground, ascending the slope in the pitch black. Character, one felt the cold steel of the .22 rifle pressed against his palms. His hands were slick with sweat, making his grip shift and slide. He chambered the single round, the mechanical snap sounding like a thunderclap in the quiet. He fought to draw air, his lungs laboring, each breath a conscious effort to stay silent. The footsteps grew louder, crunching leaves and snapping small twigs as they climbed higher. They were closing the distance, step by deliberate step. Character, one stared into the void, rifle raised, his knuckles white against the stock. He had one bullet left, just one. The rhythm of the boots synchronized with the pounding in his own chest, and then the footsteps stopped. They had reached the edge of the clearing. The intruders stood at the edge of the knoll, shadows darker than the night itself. Character, one felt his heart hammering against his ribs, the rifle barrel trembling in the dark. Beside him, the German shepherd shifted. The dog did not whine. It rose to its feet, its body taut as a coiled spring. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the air, a sound so primal it felt like the earth itself was snarling. Character, one leaned down, his voice a jagged whisper. Sick 'em. The release was instantaneous. The dog surged forward, a blur of muscle and fury tearing into the void. It did not bark. It attacked with lethal, silent precision. The silence of the forest shattered. Snapping jaws met bone and fabric, followed immediately by frantic, high-pitched screams of pure terror. Men stumbled, crashing through the brush as they tried to retreat, their boots kicking up dirt in a desperate scramble. The sound of tearing fabric and guttural barks filled the clearing. It was total chaos. The hunters had become the hunted. Their confidence evaporated in the face of a hellhound that refused to back down. The men did not fight back. They turned and sprinted, their boots sliding on the loose shale as they threw themselves toward their waiting vehicle. The engine roared to life, tires spinning and spraying gravel before they swerved onto the narrow trail and vanished into the trees. Character. One did not wait to see if they would return. He whistled, a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the lingering echoes of the fight. Character. 3 bounded back, panting, and leapt into the bed of the truck. Character. 2 was already behind the wheel, his hands gripping the rim so tightly his knuckles turned white. The engine sputtered, then caught. They slammed the gear shift, tires biting into the dirt, and surged forward. They did not look back. They did not check the mirrors. The truck swerved around tight corners, branches whipping against the metal, the headlights cutting erratic arcs through the dense brush. They drove with reckless speed, bouncing over ruts and rock-strewn paths, desperate to reach the open pavement. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every turn felt like a trap. They pushed the engine to its limit, tearing through the mountain labyrinth until the trees finally began to thin. The first gray light of dawn touched the asphalt just as they hit the main road. The engine noise died down to a steady, rhythmic hum. Character. 2 eased off the gas. The road was empty, quiet, and safe. In the back, Character. 3 lay still, eyes closed, exhausted. Character. 1 looked down at the rifle resting on his lap. The safety was still on. The chamber was empty. He realized then that he had never pulled the trigger. The dog had spared them from the irreversible choice of taking a human life. He set the rifle on the floorboards and stared out the window. The woods were turning gold in the morning sun, looking as serene as if the night had never happened. But the silence felt different now. It was not just quiet, it was guarded. The forest remained beautiful, but it kept its dark secrets tucked behind the leaves. If you crave more twisted tales, like and subscribe to Blood Moon Broadcasting. We explore what goes bump in the night. Until next time, I am your host, and this was a true campfire story.